Okay. Well, that's good. Um, okay, so our work session tonight is on cell phones and cell phone use in the district. So I did just to get us going. Okay, good. Just put together some slides to go through kind of what our policy is, what the big discussions are out there in the world, a little bit of data around how kids are using cell phones in school and out of school. And then we can dive into some of our questions about what do we do next? Where do we want to head? The questions that I gave you on this list were things that have come up as we've been discussing them and things that we may want to tackle or you may not want to tackle those things. I thought we'd just start with this quick little background and then we can get into doing that unless you'd like to do it a different way. Is that all right? Okay. So why do districts have cell phone policies? Smartphones give us great information. They're great for communication. They have engaging educational applications and help us with learning, right? So those are all positives about cell phones. However, they also are really challenging, related especially to the distraction that they provide to our students, issues with academic integrity, cyberbullying, sextortion, isolation, and can lead to, there's a lot of evidence now about the impacts of mental and behavioral health on students from, various uses of cell phones. So districts put together policies to try to balance those two things, which we have done. But now we're looking at it again.
Why are we looking at it again? So that's a question.
Well, you asked me. You're the one who said, hey, can we look at cell phones again?
No, I didn't. I thought cell phones, we kind of took them out, but I guess.
Well, we did, but we weren't sure, like, we didn't want them used, and it was up to the principals to enforce it. But there's always this creep, like as soon as the principals stop
enforcing.
They enforce it, but then once they let off the gas, they creep back in.
Well, and there are some other challenges with, like we said, our policy says, and I'll show it to you in a minute, that students anywhere in the district or across the high school can use they can have cell phones and use them before school, during lunch, and after school. So, there's kind of a natural question of what about during passing periods? What about our policy doesn't say anything about that. So we may need to revise the policy to provide more specificity, to kind of iron out those wrinkles that maybe people have some questions about so that we're clear.
Okay.
I think comes from my daughter, to be honest with you. You could see when Shannon was going around and enforcing it, because I would get these texts from her like, why are they not letting us have our cell phones? This is so annoying. And then it would drop off. I wouldn't hear anything for a week or so, and then you could see when it would start to creep back in. I would get texts during the day, which makes me wonder if they're interfering with class.
They do. From experience, they do.
I guess that's what we're here to find out. So if something more,
How are we going to investigate?
well, I think that's what we're going to do now.
Mhm.
She's going to give us some data and
And then we'll talk a little bit about.
talk a little bit more about.
Where's the date?
Well, this is just kind of general data about smartphone use by teenagers, right? I mean, we're not the only school district that's trying to figure this out. So this,
More national.
correct, yeah. So this was a study done by Common Sense Media and Mott Children's Hospital. Teens check smartphones a median of 51 times a day, and that ranged from 2 to 498 times a day. Top uses of apps during school hours in order. Social media was number 1, then YouTube, then gaming, and then streaming videos. On a typical school day, teens receive a median of 60 notifications. The total in their day is 237. So that's the median amount of notifications they receive, with the most coming from Snapchat and Discord. So those
Are
two.
they defining the school day like 8 a.m. to 3 p.m.?
Yeah, I think it was the hours that they were in school.
So what age?
These are 11 to
18.
seniors, yeah. Mhm.
Middle school and high school?
Mhm. And younger kids had a lot less use and older kids had more use, right? Because the 11 to 13-year-olds are more regulated by their parents, typically don't have as much access to things. But as kids got older, their use changed.
Is
TikTok,
this,
go ahead.
sorry, is this self-reported, like
They,
surveys?
no, they actually tracked it on their phones.
Okay. And how many did they track? Like, what was the sample
It
size?
was 200 and something students, 200 and, I forget. I can send you the report or you could Google it.
Okay.
TikTok was used by 50% of participants for a median of almost 2 hours per day.
And this was 2 years.
This was in 2023, yeah.
Imagine all those numbers have increased significantly.
Yeah, and these, I looked at other studies too, and they're pretty similar, right? If we just think about the big picture, like these social media apps, these, the video apps are really, kids are watching them.
This
And
is-
so are adults,
If you
actually.
want to look at this is the activity recorded by my daughter on her phone. So when they go over 18, you don't have access to it anymore, but that explains how granular it is.
Yeah.
Down to the app. As a parent, you can actually control what access to what apps they have and how much time they spend on it. But you can see,
Her average is 6 hours a day.
oh yeah, she's probably the littlest of all of my kids.
Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
I started to turn it on, then I was worried about it.
Yeah, here's like one of them up there with Snapchat. So her average is 2 hours and 46 minutes a day.
Is there an educational benefit to having these phones? I mean, I live by my phone. You've researched, somebody asked me a question, you got, basically my phone is more important to me than this device.
Yep. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute,
Yeah.
because there are some reasons that phones, may be something that
Have their
we,
place, yeah.
the teachers want to have access to. And there are, teachers who would advocate strongly for allowing use of phones that is guided by teacher direction in their classrooms. And certainly we have that. Shanna actually required teachers to email her and say to get permission if they were going to use cell phones for an academic purpose. So she got some information about what
Okay.
they were using it for. Their key findings in that particular study, smartphones provide background buzz. So what they mean by that is, how when you're home alone and the house is too quiet, so you just turn the TV on so there's some noise. So that background buzz, or you have music playing while you're doing your work or something like that. So a lot of what the students were reporting was having their phones on to have background buzz. They might have earbuds in, they're listening to music while they're doing their independent work, things like that. So smartphones provide background buzz and they encourage regular pickups over the more than 4 hours of teenage smartphone use on an average day. So picking up and looking at the notifications. Phone use during school hours is nearly universal, but varies widely based on school policies. So school policies do impact phone use. There is a purpose to them. Half of the participants received 237 or more notifications per day. And students reported that those interruptions are both delightful and distracting. So there's something that, you can get happy about when you get a ding, because maybe your friend is texting you about something fun.
Lunch.
And they're distracting. This was the report's words. TikTok is irresistible, offering bite-sized pleasure and low-friction interaction that quickly adapts to the user's interests or mood. So they talked about TikTok, and they have examples of students talking about TikTok. TikTok, so if you've ever used it, you open it up and it just plays a cute short little video, and then it just keeps playing new videos, right? So that's what they mean by low friction. You don't have to do anything. So students talked about how TikTok, if they only had 10 minutes to play on their phone, they were going to look at TikTok, not YouTube. Because in YouTube, you have to open it up, you have to go to search, you have to find what you want to watch. That's friction that keeps you from, using it for longer periods of time. And TikTok doesn't have that. And TikTok has really good algorithms so they can tell, oh yeah, they want to keep watching movies on or videos on this, so I'm going to keep showing this. And they, swipe something away, and all of a sudden now it conforms to whatever mood the student is in. So this was words from
Or help
students.
mood.
Or right, yeah, there you go. Over half of teens use their phones overnight on school nights, primarily for social media, gaming, or YouTube. Some of them talked about using them like having music or something on to fall asleep to, so not necessarily nefarious reasons or staying up all night gaming, but, there were uses like that. Smartphones can allow access to age inappropriate experiences. We know that, but that's a downside. All the social media apps, I think, are supposed to be 13 and above, but we know younger kids are getting on them. And then young users admit they have challenges managing their technology use, but through steps like curation and adding friction, they're working on it. So kids talked about how they manage themselves. So they may set timers on their own apps, or they may, put it down and turn it over or put it away while they're trying to focus. So, kids are developing their own strategies to help themselves with that. Why would we reduce cell phone use in schools? Some reasons are to improve student focus. We know that constantly getting notifications breaks your focus. Increasing student achievement. We know that increased focus, and there's research out there that talks about increased student achievement that comes with more stringent requirements. Reduce discipline issues, especially related to cyberbullying, sextortion, and academic integrity, and reducing issues of isolation and other mental health issues. So kids kind of isolating themselves or turning to phones because that's what makes them happy and they don't have other ways of coping with things that are stressful. Reasons for allowing cell phones in schools. We've heard, Steve, we put a social media blast out encouraging people to come tonight or to send information, their thoughts to Steve. And he got a number of them, emails. And some of the things in the emails talked about students being able to contact their parents in case of an emergency, that was important to a parent or parents. I've heard that before too. Students being able to communicate with parents about their needs or after school plans or things that are happening or whatever. So we've heard that comment. Effective use of cell phones as an instructional tool. We've certainly heard that from some of our staff members, from our teachers who are, using cell phones for instructional purposes. And it, would give us the opportunity to teach students how to manage their cell phone use in a positive way, potentially. So our current policy 3630 says students may use cellular phones, pagers, and other electronic signaling devices on campus before school begins and after school ends. Students in grades 9 through 12 may also use these devices during the lunch period. These devices must be kept out of sight and turned off during the instructional day. So that's what your current policy says. And you're right, and there's some other language in there, but that's the key right there. I know, I was like, pagers, that's retro. That slide is just what you have on your sheet, so we'll tackle that in a minute. Montana, Bozeman High, phones are prohibited during classes, but I don't think during passing periods. Billing uses lockable pouches for phones. Florida, phones were banned statewide in classrooms. California, phone lockers. New York City lifted the ban, but still enforces strict in-class policy. So, it's kind of all over the place.
Well, LA put last year, I mean, that's kind of what started us off.
It did.
on the deal.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I'm just curious on LA, how did that go? Do we
I don't know. I can research that.
Yeah, I didn't look at it, but it seemed strange that Los Angeles, California was banning cell phones and we weren't really thinking about doing it at the time, or we were thinking, but
Mhm.
Was it really LA?
yeah,
Yes, it was LA.
LA did.
And everybody was like, well, if that big a district could do it, then why couldn't we?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, I just Googled it. LAUSD to lift cell phone ban. Day ago.
A day ago.
NBC Palm Springs, yep.
Say why?
Well, I can go in there and read it.
Blended.
It's the Rogan report. Thought I was going to Joe Rogan for a second here. It doesn't have it's a video, not an article, unfortunately, but the headline is that they're backing off of it. So
Interesting.
meanwhile, 2 hours ago, Texan student cell phone banned from schools under new law. So it's going both directions.
So that was just a little kind of overview. I think, we can take a look at, does our policy say what we want it to say? I think there's some questions that our staff are looking for answers for. So like, what about during passing periods at the high school? So elementary school, really, there's no issue, right? The most we have at the elementary school is kids having the video watches or something that parents would be buying then. Your policy says they can't record during the day. You would have to have special permission like that. Pretty much the elementary, we haven't seen an issue with it. The middle school started this 7 years ago, maybe more. So it's been in place for a long time. And, the understanding is that students leave their cell phones often in their lockers during the day. Are they allowed to access them at lunch? No, okay. And, there are kids who, when I pulled the reports from IC, I think there were 26 reports or 28 reports from 26 kids for cell phone violations. Most of them said, the kid had already been given the warning and the other warning. And so looking at that data, it looks like, and from talking with Julie, I think most of the times kids will try to, pull it out and keep it out with them. And the teacher will say, you need to go put that away. And then they do it. And then it's not a repeat. Does that sound?
It does.
You can come up. You want to just talk a little bit about what you're seeing?
So then the other thing is, what is new with the kids, they use the earbuds. And so they hide them.
Yep.
And so they hide the phone and so that they're connected all the time and those connect to their Chromebook too. And so that's a little bit of an issue. So they get creative and they try to sneak when they can. Kids are kids and that's what they do. And we try to, catch whenever we can catch, and are all the teachers all consistent all the time? I would say no. And that's sometimes part of the issue of certain people allowing kids to use those. But then some teachers do let the kids use them for educational purposes, such as surveys, quizzes, brain pop kinds of things, curriculum kinds of things that that they do use their phones for. But if that is the case, that particular teacher sends out an email to the whole staff and they can only have it for that one particular period. And then it goes back. Then it's supposed to go back into the locker. So that's what is there anything more to add, Dave?
I would just say at the middle school level, we really are on board with keeping the policy in place as far as having the phones locked in their lockers during the school day. Again, at the middle school level, it cuts down. The kids aren't as well regulated as the high school. And I don't want to speak for the high school at all, but at the middle school level, we found that it really reduced student-to-student contact during the day, cyberbullying, pictures, just distractions. And if we open up the door a little bit to like a classroom using the cell phone, then it sort of causes that ripple effect. And then we have to rein that back in. And we're fortunate enough too at the middle school where we have Chromebooks in all the classrooms. So educationally, there's really not a reason for them to have a cell phone.
So they can do, you were talking about the different apps that they use on the cell phones. They can get all that on their Chromebooks.
They've been,
Okay.
yeah.
No, they're blocked. Some of them are blocked, they're blocked and that's a good thing. So certain ones they can.
Can you
yeah.
explain more about what you were talking about with the earbuds?
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, those connect. They just connect to their phone and they have a way of connecting them. And maybe you can explain how that happens, Greg. I don't know, but Bluetooth through their Chromebook.
you turn off Bluetooth on the Chromebooks?
We can, but then sometimes they'll need it. Circumstances can't do like the robots or.
Oh,
It's
And-
very limited though. We could definitely turn it off.
And my understanding is it's one way or the other. You can't just turn off certain ones. It's either all or none.
I can do it by you. So if we have Chromebooks then grade 5, I can turn.
Oh,
you guys should just take that microphone over and sit down by it.
So basically you can turn off that per group. So we have organizational units, we can turn it off for this group and not this other group. But once it's turned off, it's off. So we can't.
Can't give like an admin, like exception. If somebody, like.
I mean, if
somebody would
if
say,
Julie sends me an email or help desk ticket, then I can enable it but that would be kind of.
Is there a way that you could, well, if they're doing something with, like you said, robotics or something?
Most of the
you
time,
needed
to
a
be honest with you-
Bluetooth, could they send it through to the teacher's laptop and then have the teacher's laptop actually do the Bluetooth connection?
Well, to be honest with you, in my opinion, they don't really need Bluetooth on the Chromebooks because
Okay,
they have robotics labs.
Alright.
And so those devices already have that capability to
well,
connect.
yeah, that basically answers, I guess, what I was trying to figure out is.
Yeah,
if
but
there was
one
a way
other
we could
thing here, I mean,
arrange who could
if
do it.
they're using their earbuds and the Bluetooth into their cell phone that's in their pocket. Yeah. They're not really looking at the Chromebook.
Well, it'll even go out probably through the locker.
Yeah, they've accessed their phones.
It's amazing the range on those things.
Kids are smart.
And their watches. So all of those electronic devices, we don't want them to have, yeah.
I just have a question regarding that. How big is that problem? How big is that problem in the middle school?
Well,
Is
when you
it-
catch them, Dee Dee mentioned, we've got 26, I think we had 23 incidents and 26 kids were the ones that were caught with,
So really doesn't sound like it's huge.
most kids do what they are asked to do, they
Most
do the
kids are
right
good
thing.
kids.
They
They
are,
want to do the right thing.
yep,
So when they're wearing earbuds, are they listening to music? Are they?
probably,
Kids.
or they share with their buddy. Yeah, you don't know what they're listening to. And then they share them with their friends and so.
So my daughter was using them for noise canceling.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
So when they were taking tests, she borrowed mine for noise canceling, which would kind of make sense. But if you next time you go out to a restaurant or something like that and you see a young kid, they're always gonna have one earbud in all the time. So it's something you have to think about now and how you would enforce it.
It's, at the behavior committee, I gave kind of a bigger history of the cell phone use in the middle school. Thank you. Okay, good, thank you. So this is Dave. When we first started the cell phone policy, it was strictly enforced and really few problems. COVID did kind of lighten that up and we've been reining that back in and we're getting back to pre-COVID management of the cell phones. And even though we have a few cell phone issues, we would have more discipline issues, more behavior issues, more social issues, more cyber issues if we allowed the cell phones. And one cautionary note, I was up at MSU largely last week taking workshops, and you know how vapes can look like a bunch of different devices, USB, things like that. They're making smartphones or smartwatches that can vape.
Wow.
Whoa.
So you
So-
think, I'm sorry.
If you could run the world, what would you have the board consider.
What's your recommendation based off your experience?
Well, for middle schoolers, like Dave mentioned, I can't speak to the high school because they're older and I know they're all developmentally different at different ages, and middle schoolers are way more mature, some are, than some high schoolers, and they're all over the place. And so they really don't need them. They don't need to have them at school. You know, they can for particular purposes, but it's so insightful and we get enough of it on the weekends and after school hours that comes back into the school that we have to deal with. So much of it that takes just hours to work through sometimes when that happens on a weekend or a weeknight or whatever it might be. In our world, we'd prefer not. And I think all the teachers, the majority of the middle school teachers would be on board with that as well. After going through high school might be a little bit different because they may use those cell phones for other things. I don't know. I can't speak to the high school. I don't know. But
I think the big picture is we feel like, you know, what we're doing at the elementary school and what we're doing at the middle school has been effective. We can always make things better, but that, you know, you'd like to continue with the, you know, cell phones stay in your locker. And we'll have to try to figure out how we tackle the earbud issue.
one thing that we've wrestled with back and forth, and we keep changing it is, and we changed it, it's, you know, with some of the consequences. So typically the kids get a warning. If they get caught with the phone, the teacher will take the phone and get it back to them at the end of the day or else send it to the office. So we've wrestled with some of those, you know, exactly how to handle all the consequences, because that's not always easy either when different people are catching kids with the cell phone. But typically then we were communicating out. So with a particular Google form so that other staff would know if the student had already gotten caught once with the phone, then we would take the phone and have parents come back in and pick it up. And if it became a huge issue, we just ask for it to stay at home. And oftentimes we haven't had issues with parents. Typically it's the incoming fifth graders, just because it's a little nerve-wracking for them to come into the middle school. And oftentimes we get requests, obviously, which we would always allow is for our medical students in need. For example, some of our diabetic students.
Yes.
Have access to phones.
Yeah, we have phones everywhere in the building. And, you know, so kids have access to a staff phone in any classroom that they need to, or staff can get a hold of the office, and we always allow, you know, if they need to get a hold of somebody, they're welcome to.
So are you asking basically, it sounds like that we just put a little bit more teeth into this policy, that we maybe put some language in that overtly says earbuds? Is there anything else? I guess I'm trying to boil down what you're saying.
Our handbook does,
Yeah.
you talked to that.
Excuse me, our handbook does have electronic devices in it. So we do cover smartwatches and earbuds. I guess what we would request is maybe just to continue what we're doing, but clarify the sequence of consequences.
Okay.
We
To-
factor back.
Yeah. Within general, you know, you could talk about any behavior issue that arises. Typically, you're going to give a warning with some corrective teaching, give the kid a chance to correct that behavior. Then if you see that again, then the real first consequence would be taking place at that point. And so we would follow something like that with the cell phone. If you have your cell phone on you, I see it's early in the day, remind you, go put that in your locker, make sure you turn it off, kind of watch you go. If I catch you with that again on that day or a different day, then I take the phone.
Do we have a thing in Infinite Campus to track that for cell phones?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the report that I ran that had 26 students with 28 incidents.
What's the Google form then?
We would use that internally. We've tried that internally, so that's an internal form that we use.
So the challenge is you got a warning in Miss Smith's class, and then you go do the same thing in Mr. Jones's class. But Mr. Jones doesn't know you already got your first warning, so they don't know to issue the second warning. So we're trying to make sure that the communication is there. And either ironing it out in Infinite Campus or using a separate phone.
Seems like Mr. Jones would want to record it in Infinite Campus, then he
Yeah,
was
but
being.
the other person doesn't necessarily look it up, do they?
That's what the Google form is
Yeah.
about, correct? You're sending that out
yeah.
to the staff.
Mhm.
Like in the high school, we used to have dress code violations.
Mhm.
And if you reprimanded somebody or said, go put your sweater on, we emailed the rest of the staff and the principals and said, I just told Susie to go put a coat on because she leaves nothing to the imagination. And that went out to everybody. And so when the principal knew that, another teacher contacts and says, hey, we still have an issue. Principal goes and says, here's the deal. Here's a t-shirt.
What, so is an infant campus is just like a tick mark or something like that? Like just, there's nothing
Minor behavior.
It's,
specific to it, like
it's a separate,
what
it's-
Lila's saying?
it's a separate field. You were,
Yeah, easily. It's not like super easy. It's not super easy to pull up, Steve, so
Okay,
I would think a
So-
Google form where it just have like a web page, right, where you can see. And they can
that's too
easily.
bad.
I'm gonna say, it sounds like it's, you know, for something so small, you know, if it takes, you know, if it takes a couple of minutes to actually, you know, document it, teacher just gets the phone, takes care of it right there, doesn't document it. And then, of course, you know, like you say, a couple hours, couple days later, another teacher has the same issue. Well, I don't say as I fault the first teacher for the same reason. You know, in my world, you know, driving the trash truck, I don't burn everybody for extra trash because quite honestly, it's bigger pain in the butt than it's worth. But then it's not being documented. So I guess I'm wondering is, you know, if the Infinite Campus, like I said, I mean, it's, you know, you tell the student, hey, put your phone away. You know, the problem goes away. You know, how much documenting it does it, I guess I've never played with Infinite Campus. You have. You know, does it take a minute or two of the teacher's day to do it? Because I don't say as I blame the teacher. They're busy enough.
I think you have a good point.
mhm.
And
I would say maybe one example would be like the kid that doesn't bring his supplies or pencil to class. You may not report that to his next teacher, but pretty soon teachers get an idea who's doing that.
Yeah.
So we pick up on it that way too. Like, oh, Johnny, he's got his phone. He's got it again.
Mm.
So
And then that's all addressed in our grade level meetings that we have every week.
Nice.
Okay, any more
Um,
middle school questions or?
do we, I guess when I look at this, from what they're telling me is middle school, I wished I had high school input because I'm almost wondering, you know, I hate one size fits all policies because, you know, elementary school, there's no reason. Middle school, I would be willing to listen to arguments, but then once you get into high school, you know, you start allowing a little bit more freedom. I don't know if there's, you know, any educational advantage or,
That's coming.
Yeah.
you know,
They're gonna talk about this. And Shanna had a family emergency, so she couldn't be here. But
Okay.
we should have enough data to help us make
All
that
right.
decision here. Shanna.
Oh, yeah, so we can get started on the conversation, but like Steve said, Shanna had a family emergency, so she couldn't be here tonight. So we probably can't get as deep into it as we wanted to. Because high school is the big challenge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we just heard like middle school is working under the current.
so essentially we want to just keep things pretty tight, K-8. The conversations about
Yeah.
9-12.
And, you know, we need to write the policy so it works across the board. It
Exactly.
doesn't mean that the policy won't work for high school, but, you know, there's some specific things that we can talk about because there are specific challenges at the high school that the other levels don't have. So
Yeah.
I hope that those are the conversations we can have right now.
Yes.
And then we'll just have to continue the conversation. So I think one of the things that we've heard, and you got an email, at least one of your the emails you got was about, you know, teachers advocating for being able to use cell phones in class when it was appropriate for an instructional component. And, you know, if we want to make changes to the policy and we invite teachers here to speak on that, that's probably something you're going to hear. And you're going to hear from other teachers, I don't want to ever see a cell phone again, right? I mean, we're going to have a mixed bag there of people who believe different things, and that's okay.
If I come from a, you know, if students are you know, have a cell phone and you got 98 kids have 90%, or I don't know what the number is, but probably high 90s have one. I worry about the few that for some reason financially or, you know, parents don't want them to have it or whatever the reason. Is there an equality, equal access question there?
Mhm. Right.
Do you want to proceed with the high school stuff? I was thinking maybe, if we have time, I should just summarize. Like, I think I probably received 10 or 12 emails.
Uh-huh.
I can just give you the gist of each one of them.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what. the
Yeah.
parents
Yes,
have to
please.
say.
Go ahead and do that.
Now, why don't you go first? I think these are mostly geared towards the high school.
Okay, so I'll go through these and then we'll listen to the feedback that Steve received.
Some of it may be included, but
Mhm,
there's tone within the parents' emails that is interesting.
mhm.
Right.
Um,
Oh, Julie has a question.
huh? Am I done with you?
Mhm.
Could you stay for a little bit?
We love having you here.
You may be able to help us as we wrestle with some of these things. Should cell phone use at the high school be permitted during passing periods or breaks? So, and that goes with the next one. Students at the middle school use lockers and keep their phones there. Very few students at the high school use lockers. It kind of went out of fashion and it hasn't come back in fashion.
But they still should adhere to the policy 3639 or whatever it is.
They have backpacks though, most of them have a
So they have
backpack.
backpacks. So, but it feels, I'm just saying, when you're in the building, it feels different. It feels different to have, and I think Julie and I have had conversations, and Dave and I, when their phone is in their locker, it feels different than when their phone is in their backpack, right? It just feels different because their phone is right near them when it's in their backpack versus in their locker. So not saying that we can't meet the requirements of the policy, right? We have the cell phone hotels, they can walk into class, drop their cell phone in there.
Some
It's
teachers
there.
do.
Some,
They don't
yeah,
use it.
yeah,
Teachers do.
kids,
Not much.
it depends on the class, but by the end of the year, I saw very few kids using the cell phone hotels. So they were mostly in their backpacks or sometimes on their desks.
We could discuss the reasons that I heard for that later too. I
Okay.
don't wanna interrupt you now.
We have had the question, and I think it came up in some of the emails that Steve got, how will parents and students connect during the day if they need to? So there's two pieces to that. One is parents who are concerned that if there's an emergency, they want to be able to reach their kid, right? If there's a lockdown, if there's now our safety procedure says kids can't have their phones and be texting during an emergency. However,
Here in the real world.
we also know that, you know, just listening to media about events that have happened, that kids or young adults or college kids text somebody during an event. And so I think that's a very real fear for some families. And then just the regular connecting. We've gotten so used to being able to instantly text somebody and get an answer that, you know, we go back to the old days where you went and made a phone call during, you know, in between classes, and then somebody had to call you back and the secretary got a message to you in class, and, you know, kind of the old fashioned way that we communicated. And you're still doing that at the middle school level.
Well, and you have access to teachers' phones still in the classrooms in the high school as well.
Correct. So none of this says that we can't do our policy, right? It's just things that are habits of practice at our high school that make it harder to follow the policy. What about students who want to listen to music or have a video on while they do their independent work? So, you know, sometimes the teachers play music in the background. And I think, you know, the earbud thing is probably some instances of more and more kids seem to like to listen to music while they do their work. And there are a lot of opinions about that, whether that's right or wrong, or good or bad, or and then we talked a little bit about students who use phones to manage physical or mental health issues. So physical, obviously, are students with diabetes who we're tracking their levels. They will have to have a phone. And then we also have a small handful of students with anxiety issues who also We've, worked with their families to create a plan for helping to manage some of their anxiety by being able to make a phone call or being able to take a break.
What's the percentage of kids that are involved, that would be involved with those two issues?
Tiny, small handful.
Half a percent.
Huh?
Half a percent.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's typically we would, in order to break the school board policy, we would have them on a specific plan and the
Yeah,
plan
yeah.
would be agreed to, so.
I'm think it's. the
Yeah,
right thing to
tiny.
do. Yeah.
If we said anybody who wants to do it, then we would probably have hundreds, but we limit it to really, specifically based on identified needs. So. And then the last one is, we're all about teaching. And so I do have some resources that we can talk about that we're looking at and to help teach our staff and our kids about cell phone addiction. We are working with Intermountain to schedule a community event to show the movie Screenagers, which is about how cell phones are, impacting kids' lives and things like that. So some
Their
community
brains.
events. We're hiring teachers who are also part of this generation and who also are used to having cell phones all the time and have just as many notifications going off and things like that. And so, that as we move forward, we have to keep that in mind too. So whatever instruction we're giving our students about the impacts of cell phones and how you use them, it's, having our staff see the same presentations is going to be really important so that we're all on the same page. Livingston is hiring a person. I can show you the video. Is hiring somebody to come speak with their students, staff, and parents. And Melissa Mancy, who's coming back to us from Livingston, was an administrator there for a year, said, hey, we're doing this. We get a deal if, multiple districts nearby can do it. So I'll just show you that really quick. As an example of, oh, come on. Of something that we could do.
Would this be during school or was it
Yeah,
like after school,
no,
similar to this?
we would have them come and present during school.
Do you want me to read these comments while you find it?
I got it.
Okay. It's not on the screen.
Oh, it's not?
These are comments that were
Oops.
sent to you. by-
Yeah, these are just the emails that were sent. So they put out a Facebook post that said we were having this meeting and inviting public.
How do I get this
participation.
on the screen?
And if they couldn't make it, they could email. us.
And you got, how many did you get?
Well, there's probably 10 or
So not a huge response.
no, and there was more support
Yeah.
for letting the kids have phones. Thought they would be, to be honest with you.
Is there a way we could get to go into like a central email that actually blasts to all of us so we can all read?
We're
these?
working on that. Like this one was kind of restricted because we needed it for DD. They could only do it to one of us at the time
Okay.
for some reason. So what we had to
That's
do is
fine.
send them to me just because I'm the board chair. And then I replied to everyone and CC'd them, and then she took that data and then
Yeah.
came up with this. But we've tried to figure that out in the past, like for general questions, like how would we know somebody didn't email us each the same question, but not tell us, so that they would elicit different responses from everybody.
Mhm.
So we've kind of like found pros and cons for having an email distribution list for the board versus individual email addresses.
I don't know, it's just,
Seems like it works well for some ways and doesn't for
Yeah.
others, like.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
How do I make the sound work? What's that?
And we can talk a little bit about it after this meeting and see what you guys think would be useful.
Building a healthy relationship with their phone. Today, in the United States, the average 13 to 18-year-old is currently on pace to spend 93% of their remaining free time looking at a screen. Imagine getting to the age of 90 and thinking about all the things you could have done with that time that you didn't even get back.
I really appreciated the perspective of the hours that you have left. That's shocking every time I see it, and it's pretty scary.
I like how Dino is speaking from a place of experience.
Hearing from someone that's not so much older than us, I think has a lot of impact.
Doesn't feel like an older person's teaching us a lecture.
The transition into college was a lot more difficult than I anticipated. My first midterm rolled around and I got a 20%. In hindsight, that was a really good opportunity for me to grow as a student and a person. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to overcome those feelings of stress and anxiety because I developed the habit of running away from them by turning to the phone in my pocket. I developed an addiction to my phone and to social media. Your actions are the evidence upon which your identity is built. And after a few months of college, I was just objectively none of the things that I was proud to be in high school anymore. And I didn't like the version of myself that I was becoming. And that put me in a state of really poor mental health that made those first couple of years of college probably the most difficult of my whole life. And it really all stemmed from the relationship that I built up with my phone.
We have a hard time talking with the kids in ways that speak with them and without being judgmental about it. And Dino can do that in an engaging way.
He's engaging, thoughtful. The presentation I thought was something that students could relate to.
So when I got back to Berkeley, I created a semester-length course called Becoming Tech Intentional. And one of the questions on the application was describe your current relationship with your phone. I had one student say, I'm stuck in this negative feedback loop. I hate it so much, but sometimes it feels like I'm in too deep to break it. I'm currently losing the war for control over my life. Okay, guys, those are real UC Berkeley students that are saying that. I certainly did not expect to see responses like that on the application. Because when I was struggling with this, I genuinely thought I was the only one that had this problem. And I totally blamed myself. I thought that my inability to maintain a healthy level of screen time was a result of my personal shortcomings. And all of my students felt the same exact way. So if you're struggling with this right now, please understand it is not your fault. Behind that screen is a supercomputer and thousands of engineers that are all working to figure out what piece of content is going to keep you on the app for the longest amount of time. These services are free because they're monetizing you. And it's not that you shouldn't use them. You just need to figure out what it means for you to get a good deal out of them. You are not resigned to this outcome. My average student in that course at Berkeley reduced their screen time by over 50%. I had a number of students get 4.0s for the first time while they took the class at Berkeley. So it really is possible to build and maintain a healthy relationship with your phone. And the benefits of doing so are truly, truly enormous, especially post-high school.
This is a great project for keeping that in mind and also creating balance in their lives.
There's a lot that you can do to set yourself up for success so that your phone is not infringing upon your life. Go into your settings and come up with time limits for each of the main social media apps. You can have a friend set a screen time passcode that will not let you bypass that amount of time.
I think every high school student needs to hear this.
The reaction it brings out of me is so deeply emotional. It's like, wake up.
You want me to read some stuff?
Yes.
Some of these are longer than others, but I'll just read the short ones straight up. My 2 high school girls are in school to learn not to look at their phones. I'm a proponent of laptops in the high school. There you have it. Thanks for your work on the board. While they're a convenient tool when trying to get an occasional message to my kids during the school day, I feel like they are probably an enormous distraction most of the time. I would be for keeping phones in their cars or lockers during class times. Let's see here. Give me one sec. I'm a parent of a 6th and 10th grader in Belgrade Public Schools. I do not think cell phones should be allowed in schools because they are too distracting and the policies vary greatly by teacher. I would vote to disallow cell phone use by students. I'm writing in full support of banning cell phones from classrooms and would love to see it carry through to the high school as well. We have personally experienced the negative effects of having phones in terms of social media bullying, reduced focus, and increased mental health struggles. Let's see. This one's a little bit rambling, but let me try and get the gist of it. It scares me that they do not have cell phones if there is a reason for them to get a hold of me, especially when we have shelter in places last fall. It was convenient just the way they could express how they were feeling at the moment so they could get through it. His daughter had anxiety, and if she could text me, I was able to help her think through what was going on. Sometimes there's stuff that goes on where my children just like to check in with my husband or I if they're handling a hard day. I think she means having, it says handling, if they're having a hard day. If the teacher says no phone and was consistent with it, it would be okay, but the other classes, they use it for research. Some students use it to keep track of assignments and tasks. I think it should be teachers' choice on cell phones. This is one about earbuds. It would be good to know if not allowing cell phones would extend to earbuds as well. And this is true. I agree with this. This is something I didn't think of. While they may not technically have their phones on their person, they can still be listening to music. Is not only a distraction, but is also incredibly rude to teachers. Give me 1 second. This one's a long one. So this is the first paragraph. Keep in mind the board and the administration do not live the life of high schoolers and teachers in the classrooms and have little right controlling actions and situations they never see themselves in. Phones should be allowed in school and classrooms. I have many reasons to support my option. No phones created enforcement options, which no student or teacher listened to. Created problems with the administration had to deal with. No phones also killed the respect for students who are on their way to adulthood and not being trusted around their own tools. Phones are a symbol of freedom and they shouldn't be stripped away. Phones are a tool for generations to come and will have to learn to use in a professional manner, which will be critical to students. Allowing phones allows a teacher-student connection as the respect goes both ways when phones are present. Problems occur when phones are not permitted and students sneak their phones under a desk. Teachers aren't oblivious and do notice as that creates an untrustworthy environment between the class and the teacher. The benefits of allowing phones are much greater than the pros of not.
That last one was directed at high school kids.
Can't really say, I think so.
Okay, sounded like
It was by a high school.
it was by a high school student.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Those last two were high school kids.
oh, really?
If they have a-
Interesting.
They have a number of their email address.
Oh, they were Gmail accounts, weren't they? Not like, or you know that by name?
Both.
Oh,
They were BSD.
really?
So,
No. Oh, we'll talk about it later.
we did have some from high school students, some from parent/teacher, and mostly from parents.
Okay.
This one was interesting. I'm not sure why I'm taking the time to write this emails. I know that my words and opinions do not matter because I don't give enough money to the school and all decisions are made for what you personally want for your own kids and your friends' kids. But I believe that cell phones should be allowed in the high school. Thanks.
Thank you for that positive mental attitude.
I couldn't help but writing back on that one.
Scared to ask.
It'd be better you don't receive all these responses. I think that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Do we have, I guess, at the high school, I mean, I hear you guys, Julie and Dave, saying that in the middle school, they have this exception for the kids that have the anxiety, the diabetes. I believe that is also in the high school, as I recall.
Yes, it is. That would be anywhere.
Yeah, that's what last time I was there was 2023, but as I recall.
We kind of talked about that too with the network stuff. I don't remember if you guys were here for that or not. Maybe that was before you two.
It was before.
It was approval to improve the wireless network. And it was kind of annoying to me because, you know, like if you're gonna have the kids using their phones for their assignments, then we don't need to make our wireless network more robust for school devices.
Right.
There could be situations where they would like, you know, if they go through our network, we can control what they can use, like mainly AI is what comes to mind. But if they use their cell phone, they can go around that network based off their cell network. So.
Do you wanna?
Did you?
We got rid of that when you guys, let's see, basically a year or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So we got rid of the guest network.
Yeah.
The teachers still have the ability to connect with a different password, get some on. Basically, gets them just a ton to the internet. And we'll allow them, the teachers, the staff, they can't get to our internal network, can't get to our servers, can't get anything like that. But the students used to be able to get on the network, same sort of thing. Sorry, and we got rid of that. So I hear what you're saying, Steve. If they're on a network, we can use our filtering software.
Yeah.
So, you know, all the sites, you definitely don't want them. The kids are smart too. All I have to do is turn it off and then just on their cell.
Yeah. Or sometimes they'll come up and they'll install a VPN. Or
Yeah,
can they do that
the
on
kids are smart, man. It's wicked smart.
I mean, I guess what Greg's talking about was a long time before you guys. It was basically with the diabetic devices where they would let the kids access the network so it would feed back their stuff. And then these guys got smart and they're just like, well, if somebody really needs to use the network, we'll give them the password. You know, like nobody's going to tell a diabetic kid they can't use the network.
Right.
Yeah.
We have a separate Wi-Fi for, it's called BSC Medical for all the students that have diabetic monitors and actually for the nurses to be able to monitor the phones too. But yeah.
You know, I know that cell phones were used in classrooms somewhat when I was there, but I don't remember that being a huge want. And I don't know that I don't know if that's changed or not, but I know that we had access to laptops that we could bring into the classroom and that sort of thing, or you could go to the labs or whatever if you needed access.
How many Chromebooks do we have in high school?
Laptops now. I'm not sure that I know they're moving this next year more to Chromebooks for the high school.
But devices,
Devices in
I mean-
general, not just Chromebooks.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I mean,
What a kind
we're
of
talking about
access.
if there's Chromebooks in these classrooms that require use of the internet, they should be able to do all of their work on a Chromebook versus having.
And they can.
Or a
Chromebook or
laptop.
And at the time, you've got some control over what they access off the internet.
You have a lot of control over what you have access. And
So
you
to
have a
me,
lot-
that seems like a reasonable alternative to having a cell phone for education applications that you have within the school.
So in the middle school, they have, right now they're 1-to-1, but I'm not privy to all the talks, but they're talking about going to carts, which I agree with because of repair issues, but there is enough devices for every student. It's not like, oh, we only have enough devices for 10 students, there's 20. Like every student has access to either a Chromebook or a laptop in the middle school and high school. And you're right, we do have filtering software, we have logging, we have, we used to have Bark, but now we have Deladale. So we can actually have it set up alerts if there's bullying or inappropriate content, student to student as well. We don't have that if they're on their device, their personal device. So I don't know. I would think that would help. I don't know.
And I think that's something that the board could consider adding to their policy.
Yeah.
That, cell phones won't be used for instructional purposes. I mean, I guess you could have some kind of caveat where you'd have to get special permission for something if, or you just say, no, we're not using cell phones for instructional
Well,
purposes. And we are required to have the devices that we need to function without them.
And I like that, going back to that equality thing again. The one question I do have, like I said, K-8, I'm pretty set on. 9, 12 is we're in the high school, would be, as the kids are starting to transition into adulthood, they're taking on jobs and, they might need a little bit more allowance, a little more access to be able, definitely not during active instruction time, but if they've got some downtime, like you say, independent learning or whatever, and they want to text their boss and say, hey, I'm going to be a little bit later. The boss says, hey, can you come in or a little bit early? I don't mind that. As like I said, that's moving a little bit more towards adulthood, and so.
Well, and so that,
Responsibility.
Yeah.
right. And so that goes to that question of, we said high school students who remember have them in their backpack
Yes. they have for a long
and
time.
are using them during passing periods, I would guess.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Their faces are in
Because
the-
they have them and they, so our policy right now says, no, you can't use them during passing periods. You can just use them during lunch. So is that reasonable and rational, or is that something that, needs to be addressed? Or I'm just putting that out there. I don't know.
I almost am not against them, like I said, burning a quick text off during a passing period before the bell rings. But that's just me.
I disagree. As you know, I think doing it at lunch is fine.
Mhm,
Texts will last.
mhm.
They're not going anywhere. You do, I see at times that there's kids that have problems with phones that actually bring them in, and then they park them
Mhm,
all day long.
mhm.
And you see a significant improvement in
Behaviors.
their performance.
Mhm.
They know they have a problem, and it's related to this interaction with, it's, if all they did was a text to their boss, that'd be
Yeah.
wonderful. But if you think that's what they're doing in passing, then, I've got some land for you in the Florida Everglades.
I believe what I would say is you give them an inch, they're gonna take a mile.
Right.
And I think the middle school recognized that and said no to it.
Yeah.
Right? You can do a lot of damage in 4 minutes, in a 4-minute passing
I mean,
period.
kids are taking videos of each other,
Yeah.
inappropriate videos of each other, and posting them on,
Online.
Instagram or other things like that. Once this stuff's on the internet, it's gone.
Mhm.
You can't get it back. Somebody say, well, I want that back. Sorry, it's not coming back.
I don't know how many of you are aware of it or not, but they are now offering college classes to teach kids how to talk on the phone and how to interact. That is now a new college course because of cell phones. And I can tell you the last time I subbed, because it's 90-minute periods now. The kids have been working really, really hard, and this was not uncommon. And I would say, okay, here, you can have 5 minutes and talk amongst yourselves, and their hands would immediately go for cell phones. So I would take them away from them and make them play Heads Up 7-Up, and they were like second graders. They were so excited to play Heads Up 7-Up because it was an interaction, but they are glued to their cell phones. Think about how many of us go out in public, you walk into a restaurant, there's a family at a table, and every one of them's got a cell phone here. They don't even talk to each other. I think cell phones, have a wonderful benefit on so many levels, but I also think that we have babies out there that their frontal lobes aren't developed. And I think that we should guide them to the best of our ability.
You do a great job through the 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So why screw it up?
They're already trained by the time they're freshmen.
Yeah, I think, well, that's the problem, I think, is really the enforcement piece.
Yeah, no.
You know, like I think the teachers are doing a good job, but then, you know, as soon as you let off the gas, the phones start creeping out again.
Yeah, but I also think that the different circumstances, I mean, I, I can't downplay the difference between kids having all their stuff in a locker and kids having their stuff in a backpack.
Yeah.
Like there's just a reality of maybe we can
Do you want me to
transition
do that?
kids back to a locker. I don't know. But it's just a physical reality that has impacted how it's been rolled out at the high school, I believe.
Do you think it's due
I'm
to,
not saying we can't fix that. but
yeah,
I'm
what would you
saying
recommend to
that's-
fix it though, Dee Dee?
Well, I think,
Seems like inconsistent enforcement and like, how would you penalize somebody
well.
so that it hurts?
So, carrots and sticks. First of all, we have to make sure everybody understands, some of the things that we've been talking about here and the impact of cell phones on kids and the impact of cell phones on adults. And, why we would move to restricting that, right? So I think there needs to be more instruction. We need to be talking with our staff about it, helping them understand the why. Because once you understand the why, it's easier to delve into I'm really going to champion this, right? So we have a responsibility there. I think Frank wasn't able to be here tonight, but he texted Steve and I and talked about the value of having really engaging classes and making sure that, we're teaching bell to bell.
Right.
Because offering that opportunity of like the last 5 minutes is break time. The kids at the middle school don't have their phones on them, but the kids at the high school do. I mean, it just is natural for them to pull their phones out when there's a break. So how do we make sure that our instruction is bell to bell so that it's just not a natural opportunity?
You have to have teacher buy-in
Mhm.
and I can tell you what would bother me. I got teased by my students that the cell phones were the devil and you were to put the devil away when you walked into my classroom because that's how I felt about them. I didn't want them out. They had to be turned off and on the right-hand corner of your desk, period. And they were very good about it. But the next teacher next door, they could do whatever they wanted. And so if you don't have teacher buy-in, it isn't going to matter what we write.
Right.
And it sounds like you guys have very good buy-in at the middle school.
I would say we don't have 100%. You're always
And
gonna
you,
have
so Joanne can hear.
I would say we don't have 100%, but I think the majority of the teachers do buy in because they've seen the issues that it causes. They've seen what happens when kids when things outside of class come into the school and come into their classes and incite things, and they see the turmoil that kids are going through. And so I would like to say that we really do. Sometimes not always consistent, I want to say, maybe with staff here or there, but we work on that too. And we, address it as we need to when we know about it.
Can I ask you, while you're still standing there, you said if a teacher wants to use cell phones, they write to you for permission to do that, and then it goes out to all of the staff?
They do, yeah.
And I don't see why that could not be something that's implemented in the high school too. There might be some teacher that has something that is very specific in their lesson that needs a cell phone, and that makes sense to me then.
Yeah, Shanna did start doing that in the spring and said anybody who is looking to use his cell phones during class needs to email me ahead of time and with the rationale for that.
Do they have it every time they do it, or is it at the beginning of the year, they write an email and then that's it?
She just started it in the spring, so I think it was by every time.
I think it's per session, each time you do it.
I think that's a great idea. I don't think necessarily I would believe that it's being done that way.
Right, well, And that's,
And that's part of that teacher buy-in. That's part of being responsible on both ends.
And that's part of being on the board, is we pay attention to this stuff.
Yeah,
And if they can't figure it out, then we're gonna make them figure it out. We'll figure it out for them.
yeah, no, I think that's right.
That's why we're here. I guess it's just how much patience do we have?
Well,
And it varies depending.
My
on board
patience
member.
is really good.
well,
I'm really concerned.
Yeah.
Here's my concern. I'm looking at the performance of our kids. You know, I do believe we're making some good progress in the school, and I would say upfront, the elementaries have really come along and really got consistent. That helps because that's adding to the consistency that the middle school's starting with. I'm still not completely convinced that we shouldn't move the 5th grade back, but that's a different issue. One of the things I see in the high school is that we don't have the same, we have 90-minute classes where we used to have 1-hour classes.
Yep.
And we're not going start to finish in a lot of those classes, which ends up being a lot of kids either on their phone for part of the day, part of the class, or in the hall. We have a lot of kids in the hallways. The biggest issue that I see with this is that I talk to kids that are graduated and now gone to college for the first year. And some of these kids have gotten excellent grades in high school. And they are challenged. And that tells me that we need to gain more focus on getting kids' attention and getting them the kind of education they need. And so anything that we do related to getting off of that task, and I see cell phones as one of those things, is not helpful. And so from my perspective, anything we can do to improve our focus on education. And there's a lot of things in this mix. This is just one thing. But to me, you know, you've got to knock them off one at a time. And so for me, it's always about, let's get attention to detail around how we're teaching kids. And let's make sure that they have the right focus for when they're in that classroom.
We talked, we can all have conversations with Dee Dee and Trey and everybody about it. Like, one of them was like, why do they have that time at the end of a period? You know, like, would it be better if we, you know, I get frustrated because I always try and negotiate, you know, the contracts for the teachers and you advocate for them to get raises and things like that. But then I have teachers watching movies and kids texting me at the end of class when they should be teaching from bell to bell, like you guys say. So if we have a situation where there's a school where it's not, maybe the class periods are too long, you know, maybe we need to engage them for a shorter period of time, but that's something these guys will have to figure out.
Yeah,
I don't think we want to solve it here. It's an idea, but I think, you know, I'd encourage you guys all to talk to her about it and, you know, share your opinions on it. And, you know,
As an advanced placement teacher, 90 minutes is a gift.
is it? That's the AP kids though. I've heard those kids teach themselves too.
They're
Deb's fighting.
Not in my class.
But no, I did not say that, but I had a coworker whose wife was a teacher and she loved them because she's just like, they were just so eager to learn and they would always just use up the entire time.
That is one
Yeah,
struggle
they
with a long class period is keeping both students and teachers engaged. I'll be honest, I'm the guy that I'm so ADHD. If you see me searching around, going through here, it's because I'm listening, I'm tuned in, and this is how I think a lot of kids are. You know, if I sit here and stare at you, I can look at you and be tuned completely out, but if I'm moving, I guess when you get those longer class periods and you get into for me, a math class of any flavor, and after 45, 50 minutes, I'm gone. Now you get me into a welding class, 90 minutes seems like, can we double this?
But that goes towards what Rocky's saying about engagement and just, you know, getting the kids in places where they'll succeed and want to focus for that amount of time. And that's something we have to talk to her about. I don't think we want to solve it tonight.
What about these kids that seriously, I know their performance improves when they are listening to music. What about those kids? Though, because in a classroom, you have a mixed bag. You have those kids that want music on, and then you have the other kids over here that are like, I would be that kid, like, could you shut that off? I just can't make it. But other kids just function really, really well with it. It
Mhm.
takes everything away, and I don't know how they do it. My brain would be listening to the words all the time. But
I can't distinguish either. It gets worse as I get older. The way I see it is like, Rocky's got some ideas, I get a lot of mine from my daughter, to be honest with you. Just how much she texts me. I can see improvement when they took away the phones in her grades. Like her understanding of the math concepts increased.
yeah,
you know?
well, and they say even behavior changes.
Yeah.
And they have examples of it. When
I
you,
think, like I was telling Rocky, like it's something we're all concerned about, and we don't know where to stop, right?
Mhm.
Like LA is retracting it for some reason. But I think, we continue to do our diligence here and work with Dee Dee on it and try and solve the problem, like Rocky's saying. And at some point, if this becomes such a headache that we just, you just have to fight with kids all the time, that's where I'm like, screw it, let's just get rid of them altogether.
yeah, I think we can find a balance though.
I hope so.
And I think that there is a good balance already. You can have them before school, you can have them at lunch, and you can have them right away after school. The rest of the time, they're in your backpack. But then it's, how will parents and students connect during the day if they need to?
Yeah. Well, that's something you guys have to think about, I think,
Lunch, they can check their texts for their parents.
or in passing periods, or like Dee Dee said, they're in their backpack. It's too convenient for them to access them, whereas with the middle school, they're out of sight, out of mind. Maybe they do make them start using their lockers.
Or we do, other places, they have those sealed packets, pouches, or, I mean, there are other,
Well, we have the
Options
pouches, we
that
could argue
cost.
about the effectiveness of the pouches too.
yeah. Well, I mean,
I
all of
guarantee you
them.
don't think they're gonna work.
They're empty most of the time.
No, these are like
Like,
Yeah.
pouches
The
that
hotel.
seal, and you have to go to this thing to unseal it, and it only unseals after school's out, and they're
retinal scan.
pretty, retinal
Red
scan.
line, So they can't use Bluetooth.
Thumbprint.
Go to the US Embassy, you'll find out all about it.
Well,
Particularly in today's world.
So, but, again, that's an expense. I think, providing information to our staff, whether, there's this guy, I showed you the video, there's a bunch of other people out there.
I mean, personally, I think you need to understand that other people are having big problems with this, and that
Right.
it's, just because you're struggling with it doesn't mean, there's something wrong.
Right.
Uh,
So I think,
that does, I think it's good education.
yeah. So I think there's a cost to that, obviously. There's time and, bringing somebody in. But I guess I would say that probably is a great step to helping get the buy-in from our staff and from parents and from student, and helping students understand their relationship with their phone.
Look kind of like an assembly type thing.
It is an assembly. And then he does a parent night thing, and then he works with teachers. And there's some other things that,
I'm just curious what the cost is for his package.
12, and
That'd be-
so
it's
if we
great.
were able to tie in with Livingston and do it at the same time, then we would probably split the flights and, because you pay for the
Yeah.
other stuff. So there's other stuff too.
Buy a hotel instead of a flight.
Right. So, at that, and we were just gonna get the principal's opinion on that, but he does middle school and high school, so we would do one assembly at the middle school and then a different one or one at the high school also. And then do the parent information sessions but I think, that sort of positive learning can help us get to where you're envisioning us to be, right? It helps people understand why there would need to be a change, right? Including some of our staff members who may think there's no problem and, not be on the same page. So So I think that would be a really positive thing. And then doing some more things with our other partners, like Intermountain doing the Screenagers community presentation. So that's anybody from the community can come learn about cell phones connected to teens. So doing some more things like that, I think are really positive and important to this work. And then I think we can figure out, are there, we could come up with some options for things that you may want to add to your policy. Your policy already says no cell phones. They can have them before school, they can have them at lunch, and they can have them after school. I think because the high school feels like a different beast, maybe we need some more clarity in that to say they're not allowed in any class at any time unless you have prior permission from the principal. And
Yes.
and we'll have to make that decision about passing periods. I think the unfortunate thing with passing periods is until you have buy-in, until kids understand that they need to just keep their phones away, the management of that would be a nightmare.
I was reading through another article about the LA school district, and that was actually
The
one of the
nightmare.
things, because they were bell to bell. They were
Mhm.
no lunch, no passing periods, no nothing. And it looked like one of the biggest problems was not in the classroom, but in the passing period, because how do you enforce that?
Yeah.
Teacher's trying to prep for the next class. There's 5 minutes. There's nobody out there watching the kids.
Right. But it may be that we recreate the culture, help people understand how to have a healthier relationship with their phone, and then put that in place the following year, because we're at a better place in what we're doing. And kids and families are more receptive to the idea of, I'm not going to look at it until 12:15 when the lunch bell rings. And they're okay
I
with
was
that.
gonna say, they just have to be taught. The issue about the parents and the students connecting during the day, Julie, would you talk to that? I know high school kids think that they should have everything on instant demand, but
Typically if a parent has a concern about a student connecting, whatever the issue might be, they're really good about reaching out and making a plan, coming up with some kind of a solution, or together we work through it, because maybe it is the anxiety, maybe it is something, but typically we always know about it. And their parents are really good about reaching out and working together with us, so.
And they can still call the office and you get messages to kids.
and how
Always, yes.
about the kids, on the kids' end?
They want them. The kids want it. They want their phones and all the things, but I think when they don't have it,
It speaks for itself.
yeah. And what would you say to that, Dave? Do you have anything to add to that? I mean, it's really not an issue. Sometimes, once in a great while, we get into a power struggle. If a student says, no way, I'm not giving you my phone. You can't have it. It's not yours. I'm not giving it up.
I paid for it.
Yeah, we get
My
that
property.
every once in a great while, and then typically we get the phone, eventually, and work with the parent to come in and say, listen, this, and they're really, for the majority, they're really good. Once in a while, we have disgruntled parents that are frustrated and that don't like that policy because they want to get a hold of the kids.
Right.
But I think once they know how we operate, it's really hasn't been a huge issue.
So again, we already have parents that have been trained by the middle school coming in.
Sounds like the parents have more of an anxiety issue than the
I
kids.
think that parents will be the biggest issue. That's my opinion.
I don't know. With my 15-year-old, it seems like the cell phone just manufactures anxiety. It's better for her to have it at a distance and for her to learn how to deal with stuff versus texting me every 2 seconds.
Adulting, starting a little bit on the adulting side.
That's why I'm the meanest dad in the valley. Did you have anything else you wanted to
No.
talk about? Anything you guys questions you wanted to ask or anything?
I feel like it's been a very good discussion.
Yeah.
So would you like us to put the policy on the next board meeting with some possible revisions to discuss? probably we want to encourage some teachers to come to talk about their experiences and their ideas about pros and cons. We want to get the word out if we want to do that, or we could wait and do it in August.
I say we,
Do we want to actually put it on there to start revise it and approve it? Or do we want it for the opportunity for people to speak toward it?
Be interesting to hear what some of the teachers had to say.
I would really like to hear what the high school teachers
Yeah.
have to say. I know.
I hear that, but that's quite literally what this meeting was. I honestly think just to kill this beast and put it away for the year, that I think we should just put it on there, add some language to the tune of something about earbuds. Maybe bring it up to date and get rid of the words pagers, but
Oh, come on.
we can leave it in there just for a throwback for old time's sake.
Oh,
Hey, I want to tell you right now, I had the Nokia 252, but I never had a pager and I'm 42 years old. And if you remember the Nokia 252, well, if you can find ones today, it'll still turn on.
Making me feel old. Walter had 2 pages.
So,
I think we need to just,
What are you thinking for your enhancement of the policy?
put some language in there about, sounds like everybody's kind of on board with, keeping it, not having them during passing.
I don't care.
I mean, I guess,
I don't see how that's enforceable.
yeah.
I don't.
Do we
think- I
want to
don't
just
care
take,
about that.
do we want to give that gap then? I mean,
I don't know, maybe it seems to me like Dee Dee's talking about, you phase it in where you
yeah,
say like, not during class under.
Not
any
during class.
circumstances. And if you want to catch up with your parents or text your friends during passing, that's great, unless it becomes an issue where you start becoming.
great, sell that to Rocky.
Yeah. Lunch passing before and
Yeah.
after school.
And that's 9-12, not, K-8, I think.
Well, you guys have it handled.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, well,
that,
they don't do it in passing.
Yeah.
And
Those guys don't.
I think a lot of your problems are gonna end up happening in passing. That's when you're gonna have your issues.
Yeah.
I think that
But as long as they're not in the class, as long as they're focused in the class, that'd be a big plus.
Yeah.
keep them out of the classroom. I think put some language in there about your earbuds and, for whole time's sake, leave them
I
like
guess I'd be curious to see what kind of penalties you would have for repeat offenders.
the confiscation of parents picking them up would be on my real short list. Parents come in enough times, they're gonna look at their
Well, I
kid and
guess
go,
if-
Johnny,
if-
quit.
If they keep being repeated, you could tell them they can't bring their phone in. That's it.
Yeah.
Ban the phone.
I used to work in a secure area and we weren't allowed to bring cell phones in, but like you'd forget, put them in your pockets. So they would make you carry a big inflatable cell phone around for the day. I thought that was a good penalty.
Shaming.
Yeah. Make it like this big, yeah.
And then do we need to actually put it in the policy, or is this kind of up to each building that a cell phone would be permitted during class if approved by the principal for instructional purposes?
Yeah, I think that that's good language to have.
I think
Right,
that
because
should be
it,
put in there
it,
too.
it helps define for everybody. This is what it is for everybody.
Well, and I also think that it shows that we're not just trying to be like Attila
Yeah.
the Hun here and
Yeah.
just kick everybody to the curb. It says, okay, you got a purpose.
You're picking on one of my heroes now.
Okay.
Julie, that would be okay, right? Because you
Maybe
can
I'll just
you
say
can
told
deny
you.
all of them. I said that would be okay to have language in there that said if you were using it for instructional purposes, you could get approval from your principal.
And it will be, and the rest of the staff will be notified so
Yeah.
that cell phones get put away or.
I'd love to see what they were using it for too. That was something we could accommodate.
I'm sure you could do it on Chromebook.
Thing is technology's changing so fast that there could be theoretically conceivably something that could come out that would be an educational benefit that we can't foresee right now. But I couldn't, I can't future proof myself, so.
And then are you gonna send that out to us to look at or?
Yeah, to think through how we would do that. And I think it is important to try to get some teacher input, which is going to be harder to do in the summer, but we can send emails out and reach out to people and try to get, I mean, people can send us written comments too.
I just want to know where you get these checks from that, you know, these rich people are sending us to make these decisions.
Oh.
How do I get my name on that?
I'll show you when we stand next to the gold toilets. And
Oh.
Okay,
Okay.
Thank you.
sounds like a good start. Thank you guys for all coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for sharing how you guys handle this, Julie.
Yeah,
Good job on that.
thanks for staying.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
is,
that'd be great.
I was gonna say science, I remember and
Oh,
doing
really?
it.
What do they use that for?
Can you? So Joel.
I want to say it's genes and genomes and trying to figure out all the genetic stuff. I want to
There's
say.
probably
They
some-
collect their data on cell phones and it analyzes it.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
And with some of our ruler stuff, we do student surveys. I mean,
It's-
Mhm.
I don't know, they could move up. Altogether.
Hey, man, as long as it's associated with learning, it's okay.
Mhm.
It's when
And
it's
then the
snapped
phones
out
go
of-
back away. Yeah.
Ooh.
I hate. Okay,
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
hey, Rocky.
Thanks.